Hey guys, how's it going today? How's everything? So here we are today. It's St. Patrick's Day in Australia already. So like whoever's listening to this on the other side of the world, whether it's in Europe or in the US, the Irish luck is coming your way within a few hours. So I'd like to go over another book review. Um, my name is Johannes Pilar. For those who don't know me, and I'm the messenger from Ecological Knowledge, and this is the Ecological Knowledge headquarters. And basically, what I do is that I just try to expand a few wisdom from a few of the books I've read, a few wisdom in like a practical sense, basically, which then you can apply in your life, right? Now, of course, a lot of these books, though, which I'm actually currently reading and stuff, are actually books from other people as well, and from who I got reading these books. But some of them are from myself, But I mean, I guess a book is an impersonal object, so it doesn't matter whoever does the book review. You can do the same thing, and I mean, I just hope whoever's actually watching this that you guys get um, practical knowledge, which you guys can implement in your guys' life. So I wanted to go over a book today that I already did a book review on below and stuff, but I think it's so crucial and stuff, because I actually skimmed through his book around 3 times last week, and this week as well and stuff. And I read another chapter of the book, and so I just wanted to review over it. This one is Seneca's book on the shortness of life. Life is long if you know how to use it. Life-changing book, people. This book, life-changing. And just to show you guys on the side, basically, right, other books which I've been reading this week and stuff. Sam Walton's book, Made in America. This guy earned about $160 billion throughout his career and stuff. The founder of Walmart. Um, then you have another famous guy, Keith Fennell, by Warrior Training. What it takes to be a special air service Australian soldier. And this book is actually quite fascinating, basically, because he goes into the psychological mindset that it takes you to actually be one of these army warriors and stuff, and like what stress you have to go through, but like how like self confidence, self belief, persistence, determination, all the intangible assets of your life really did determine for the most part whether you're going to do something or not, right? We know this already. Warren Buffett talked about it as well, right? It's all about the intangibles. I believe if you guys have ever seen one of Warren's YouTube videos, right? He goes in how as a child and stuff he was mentored by who many call the father of Wall Street, Benjamin Graham, and Benjamin Graham basically just looked around basically and said to himself, "Who are the people which I admire?" And then of course they had certain traits, right? And then Benjamin Graham looked around and said, "Who are the people which I don't admire?" And they also had certain traits, right? And so what Warren Buffett says basically is what his mentor Benjamin Graham told him was that he just basically followed all the habits and all the traits and all the assets that the people who he had admired wanted had basically, right? And what were those traits? They were all the intangibles, right? So you talk about determination, self confidence, persistence, what I said earlier and stuff. I think Anthony Robbins says it right. 80% of success, achievement, 80% of almost anything that matters in your life is psychology and 20% mechanics. So it's 80% the why, 20% the how. Other books I've been reading is the Kontiki Tour by Thor Heyerdahl, fascinating book. The E Myth Accounted by Michael Gerber. He wrote a famous called The E Myth, The Entrepreneur Myth. That's what it is. Um, Another one is the world I live in and optimism, right? Then I am constantly rereading this book, Life in Half a Second, mind blowing book by Matthew Michaelowitz. I met him in Australia. Cheers out to Matthew if you're listening to this video call. And then of course, lastly, one which I always recur every single week, basically, because I think he's the most important psychologist of the 21st century, like what Steven Pinker said. And his name is Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. This book is by far one of the most important. Him. So yeah. So those are just a few of the books, basically, which I was skimming through this week, right? Now, going back on the topic of Seneca on the shortness of life. Life is long if you know how to use it, right? Seneca says that the average layman will always complain that he or she doesn't have enough time, that that time seems to be always consumed by other people, or by or by their work, or by their studies, or by anything, right? But what Seneca says is that it's not that we don't have enough time, but that we waste a lot of it. I want to actually read his own saying, simply because I think it's so powerful of a statement. He said, so it is. We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not able supplied, but wasteful of it. Just as when ample and princely wealth falls to a bad owner, it is squandered in a moment. But wealth, however modest, if entrusted to a good custodian, increases with use. So our lifetime extends amply if you manage it properly. And then, of course, Seneca gives around 11 different reasons why people waste their time and stuff. So he talks about, for instance, sluggish with idleness. One man is worn out by the political ambition, which is always at the mercy of the judgment of others. And then he talks about, some are worn out by the self-imposed servitude of thinkers' attendance on the great. Think about that. Think about how many hours, how many days we have been wasting our lives away caring about actors and actresses. I'm not saying they're not role models. I'm just saying simply that they don't serve your interests, people. Simple as that. They serve their interests, and they're trying to sell you entertainment. Now, of course, you can grab that entertainment. Once in a while, it's fine, right? But I'm always astonished how the average person, I don't know, watches TV 5-6 hours a day and stuff. Think about how much value is going. How much of your time is going away serving the entertainment of some other actor and stuff. It's fascinating. But I think one of the most important ways why we waste time was the last one. He said, many pursue no fixed goals, but are tossed about in ever-changing designs by fickleness which is shifting, inconstant, and never satisfied with itself. Wow. When I saw that, I highlighted it 40, 50, 60, 90, 100 times. And why is that? Because are you constantly, going through life, always without any the fixed end game, without any fixed goals, without any desires, aspirations, dreams, visions, people? Are you currently wasting away the only time you will ever get in life? Trying to live it for the someone else, basically. Are you currently living in your life, being the manager of your circumstances, having lousy goals, only wanting to pay the bills, make a living, etc.? Is that really you? No, right? I mean, in my opinion, we're all more valuable than only living to work, basically. And you don't want to, and you don't want to do that, right? Live to work, right? You want to do the opposite, work to live. So where that though, like money works for you, and then you work, of course, um, when you want to, but you love what you do, right? But like most people simply just live to work and stuff. It always seems to me, at least from the observation, that for the most part we get caught down in having to live a life which we have to live instead of a life which we want to live. And um, Michael Matthew Michaelowitz as well talks about it in the book Life in Half a Second. How he's traveled around the world basically, and he's though observed this though like the same sort of phenomenon from almost every nation which he's like entered, right? And that is that simply most people just exist. Most people just um, go through their days because they have to go through them. Instead of being the architecture of their life's design, they just get bogged down to they're doing whatever has to be done, whatever needs to be done, whatever should be done. Remember, we all have all these questions. Remember, should you only do your shoulds when it's a convenience, when you have to, right? And so that's how the mass of men live their lives. Now, of course, what the Seneca says is that that's really quite foolish of you, to be putting off sensible plans to your 50th, 60th year, or till like later, aiming to begin to actually live when the few have arrived, right? Seneca says, when you get occupied in what you're doing, basically, and you don't focus on your life and what is in your interest, basically, right? And what is your end game, and how are you going to get to that end game, and what serves you for your end game. When you don't live a life like that, basically, right, you will always be caught in the wants and the likes, and you always succumb to outside noises and stuff, and so what Seneca says as well is that the preoccupied people are also bad because their mind is so preoccupied. They only live in the present. He says. So he says that preoccupied people just get up, have to work, have to pay the bills, have to go to sleep, have to get up the next day and do the same thing, and then when it comes Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, Monday back to Monday, and same thing, right? And so what Seneca says is that preoccupied people, they don't ever have any time to look back in their past and say, oh wait, am I going in the right direction? Is this the direction which I want to be in, right? Preoccupied people never have time to look in their past and look at what are their true weaknesses and what are their true strengths, and how they can get around their strengths, and their circle of competence, as what Warren Buffett puts it, um, and yeah, and so Seneca, says this one quote which always literally sticks in my head. He says, you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. Wow, straight on, bang on, right? When you hear most people say, right, I fear this, I fear that, right? We always seem to be that, okay, if we fear something, we have to get over our fear, right? We have always heard this, right? Conquer your fear, attack your fear, have the courage to push over it, right? And we always seem to be mortal because we want to conquer the fear now and then without even waiting, right? But Seneca says though when it comes to our desires, to what we dream, to what we aspire to what we envision for our lives, right? We act like we live forever, like we're bound to live forever, and that we have all the time we ever want and we ever need to just live forever, right? And Seneca says that's really the most stupidest thing, which though the most people face, right? Most people seem to not understand that life is short, of course. Carlos Slim said, the wealthy Mexican Lebanese billionaire. He said life is short, death is long. So No, I mean, no, sorry. He said, um, life's road is long, but its time is short, or something like that. And you got to have that in mind every single day, people. You got to wake up every single day saying, um, or at least I wake up, ecologically. I do stuff now in my self interest. In the sense that, of course, I'm here to help them, everyone around me. Friends, my girlfriend. And so I'm trying to reach my the end game in life. Um, which of course, once you reach that end game, there will always be something else. Because I always believe, that you always have to raise your standards. That that happiness comes from momentum, comes from growth, comes from constantly feeling that sense of the achievement in you, that the sense of fulfillment, if you were to say. So I wake up every single morning and say, am I closer to where I want to get to my end game? What's my end game now, and what are the steps, and what are the most appropriate, suitable steps which I'm taking towards that end game, right? Um, and so I try to have like a I try to cultivate as what the Ray Dalio. If you guys look actually here, if you guys see this like the sheet right here, um, on Ray Dalio's website, because he's the founder of the biggest hedge fund ever, Bridgewater Associates, of the wealthiest hedge fund in the world, a billionaire. I think he has a net worth of more than 12 to like $14 billion. I'm not sure how much, but he's wealthy though. But on his website, you guys can actually download free of charge, print out his the principles page, and I think it's about 100 plus pages, right? And Ray Dalio says that in his life, what he's done is that he's always cultivated what he calls this higher level thinking. So imagine yourself here, right? You are here in your life, right? Walking throughout your life, right? He says, instead of seeing stuff at your own level, where you're at, right? You want to see stuff as if you had like a bird's eye view over it, right? So you're looking down on the problem, and you're looking down on your life, and you're trying to map out and try to systematize your life according to your end game, right? So every moment you're alive, you're like cultivating this higher level thinking, where you're like looking like a GPS signal, sort of, on the map of your life, and where are you towards your end game, and how are you getting there, and what point are you um, in the path towards your end game? Where are you now? So I think ecologically, having a bird's eye view over your life, sort of, at least for me, helps me understand where I'm going, and if I'm deviating off my target and off my path and stuff. So I think that was really fascinating, right? Now, of course, Seneca throughout this whole book goes into more about why people waste their time and stuff. But the antidote for this, or the antithesis towards this synthesis of no, sorry, towards the thesis of wasting your time, right? What's the antithesis to that? So he says, and I'll just read it to you guys, because I think it's really important, So, okay, so he goes, he says, of all people, only those, sorry, oh yeah, here it is, sorry. We are in the habit of saying that it is not in our power to choose the parents who were allotted to us. They were given to us by chance. But we can choose whose children we would like to be. They are a household of the noblest intellects. Choose the one into which you wish to be adopted, and you inherit not only their name, but their property too. So he tries to tell you that, and tries to tell me, and tries to tell us ecologically that the best way to not waste time is to simply read, and to understand from an experience-based point about what great philosophers, great thinkers, people who have more wisdom and more experience than you thought, and how they approach their life and stuff. That way you don't waste time, right? Because trial and error can be, detrimental. I think Dawkins talks about this in his book, Selfish Gene and stuff. It could take years before you actually accomplish something via trial and error and stuff. So it's much easier simply to like read, or to listen, or to understand, or to comprehend, or to be mentored by someone with more experience and with more wisdom and knowledge within any industry, right? Um, because also you also learn the like tricks they learn, you learn the shortcuts they learn, etc. Right? Anthony Robbins said, success leaves clues, people. Success leaves clues. So I thought that was fascinating. All in all, though, this is really one of the greatest books. And I mean, for me personally, it's been a life-changing book. There's a lot of ecological knowledge here, which you can implement in your life. Steps and the advice which the great Stoic philosopher Seneca states. So all in all, though, I hope you guys get this book one more time on the shortness of life. Life is long if you know how to use it. Get the book definitely. And if you guys have any questions, or any comments, leave it on the side at the on the comment bar, and I'll be happy to get back to whoever has anything. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video call.